Thank you, Cliffy. Good morning and welcome to the program. Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. In this first segment, brought to you by Bechtel Jewelers, West Virginia's largest Pandora retailer. We live in South Inwood, next to Viva Mexico. Good morning, Davey.
Hey, good morning to you. And I probably shouldn't say this because I know that there's probably some real problems out there in the community. But for whatever it's worth, last night was one of the best night's sleep that I've had in a long time. We have a door that goes out from our bedroom into the back patio. We open the door, let that nice cool breeze come in, and that sound of that rain all night. It was great, but I'm sure it wasn't great for a lot of others.
Well, you have a picture on your phone that you saw what Jeannie Mosier posted in Berkeley Springs, somewhere off of 522, a total road collapse, it looks like.
Yeah, apparently Route 127, I'm not sure I know where that is. August 127 is what it said on the Facebook, but it's a road off of 522, I think north of Berkeley, no, it'd be south of Berkeley Springs. I don't exactly know where, but this huge sinkhole, the road just literally ends.
Total buckle.
Just total buckle, right? 10 feet deep into the ground. And Jeannie has a message on there about saying maybe we should halt all these road bond projects and fix the roads that we have or something. So there's a certain point to be considered there, I would imagine.
Some flooding in our area, too. We brought in Eddie Gochenour, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management in Berkeley County, to give us the latest on the situation locally here, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Eddie, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
What is the latest list of road closures and situations this morning, Ed?
It's a pretty long list. Henshaw, McCoy, Tuscarora to Shanghai, Grapevine Golf Course, Douglas Grove, Process Road, Allensville Road, Baxter Road, Dry Run at Cannon Hill, Peckin Lane, Moeller Avenue in the city of Martinsburg, Scrabble Road, Beddington Road, and then we've got some private roads that are flooded out pretty bad. Puffenberger Lane, Wimpy Lane, Trees Bottom, Pops Place, and they're recreational areas, and Mystical Way. And the river, we just checked with Williamsport, and the river is holding steady at 25 feet. But that's causing us problems because the smaller tributaries are not allowed to enter into the Potomac because it's up so high. So it's just backing up everything else. It's slowing, Back Creek down or backing Back Creek up and Peckin now. So it just creating more issues. We've had a couple of water rescues already this morning. My guys were out at 3:30 this morning, and they're again at 6:30 this morning. So of course, we didn't get near the rain that Morgan County got. Hampshire County had a lot of damage. Morgan County had a lot of damage in roads. So between the two of those, we lucked out pretty well.
I encountered Eddie the road closure on Moeller Avenue when I was going to the wellness center today, and all of a sudden, the big bar right across the road. Where exactly was the flooding on Moeller? Well,
there's a bottom. It goes down through there. It's called Cannery Bottom, and it comes out behind the old Kent Terrace apartments and down through the old National Fruit property. But it's that whole bottom down through there with Adams Street, Hess Avenue, and Moeller Avenue down through by Cecil's block. And it's that whole area right through there.
So there's just a whole lot of detouring that's going to be going on today throughout, the day, do you think?
Yes, sir. I'm hoping from what I've been able to see on the weather, this is supposed to clear out, early morning, and then the rest of the day, I think, is supposed to be halfway decent, and then a chance of showers again tomorrow.
Is there a website
people? A little bit more time.
Is there a website people can go on and get maybe a map of where the road closures are?
There isn't. We may work on that today to try to at least put it on the Berkeley County webpage. We do have Alert Berkeley, and that information, I know we pushed it out last night. We haven't had an opportunity yet today to get back and update it. But we'll work on that today and try to get that on Berkeley County's webpage.
Well, Eddie, so you know, this morning I spoke with Eric Kiesacker and Brian Potts, who I know you know from the Transportation Department of Berkeley County Public Schools. They gave us a full list of road closures. We put that up on our Facebook page. So at least that part is listed on our Facebook page on Talk Radio WRNR. Anybody can get to that and see that road closure list. They also mentioned one other thing, Eddie, which is concerning, and that is they said that they'd been told that there are so many road closures that we've run out of road closure signs, and as a result, there may be some impassable roads which are not marked off as being closed. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Department of Highways, we've struggled with that for a while, and quite honestly, in the last couple of years, we've been very aggressive in trying to get roads closed down. When we know they're flooded, they're impassable, we're trying to get the signage out there, and we've kind of outpaced DOH's ability to do that. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't get high water signs or put cones out, but, if we can, it's like we have a very good working relationship with the Department of Highways, and we're very aggressive in trying to keep people from making a mistake. And because what eventually happens, then we have to put guys in harm's way to go get them. So if we can prevent them from going out there, that's my goal. Because we're all going to be better off.
Are any? My apologies. Are any of these roads which are closed but aren't marked by a road closed sign barricaded in some other way with, as you said, cones or whatever?
Yes, I would say that probably 95% of them are. Now, I just found out this morning that on the backside of Scrabble Road, there's no markings coming in off the Greensburg side. So, I need to get with my partners there and try to get that accomplished this morning.
Do we have any power?
I mean, it's a challenge. These guys are, they're running everywhere. And last night, at 10:30, 10:45 last night, we were on the bridge on 45 because we had a report that possibly the bridge on Route 45 was cracking. So we met DOH out there, and just we're doing our job. Checking to make sure that the bridge does appear to be safe, and it's the old cracks. You could tell by the paint that was still down in the cracks, and the grass is growing. There was no new evidence of anything wrong there.
Okay. Eddie Gochenour, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management in Berkeley County, is our guest here on the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. And Eddie, do we have any power lines down or major tree obstructions which are blocking any roadways this morning?
No, I mean there have been some trees that have fallen, but they've all since been taken, cut back out of the way. So there's no other issues with lines down or trees down at this time.
And the roads that are flooded, do we expect them to remain flooded the remainder of this day?
Well, I honestly don't know. I think some of them will probably diminish, and I think we may see some of them get a little bit worse, especially where they have to dump into the Potomac. I think that areas near there will probably get worse throughout the day.
Yeah, there's just no place for some of that water to go, is there?
Right.
No, sir, there's not. And further downstream it goes, the worse it's going to get. Harpers Ferry, I think, will be experiencing some flooding downtown Harpers Ferry today and tomorrow.
Oh, that's not good. I also heard that the 7 over in Morgan County, going back to Morgan County again, that the Capon River is up 7 feet because of this storm. That's quite a bit. I just kayaked there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with that part of the region as far as their problems, but I did see some pictures yesterday, and they've had some major problems, major issues, and I know they were working hard yesterday to try to take care of their people as well. We had a boat deployed over there yesterday as well, along with a lot of other departments trying to assist them as well.
Eddie, thank you very much for your time this morning. Much appreciated.
Right. Thank you for that posting on Facebook. That helps us as often as we can get the word out. It's better for all of us. So thank you.
I hope you get some sleep, Eddie.
Yes, sir. We need it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Eddie Gochenour, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management here in Berkeley County, appearing courtesy of the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. Dave, before we go to our next guest, I just need to say it strikes me as brutally ironic or just flat out weird that after passing a $1 billion plus road bond, we don't have enough money for road signs to close down flooded roads. I just don't.
That strikes
get
you
that.
as weird? Tell me why, Rob.
Oh my goodness! I
Go
don't know
deep
where
on
to
that.
start.
Yeah, really. Hey, by the way, one little note that I wanted to throw out here. Good news note. Just a shout out to the new graduates of Faith Christian Academy over the weekend. So you've got a whole group of seniors ready to go take on the world, and our best to each and every one of you.
Miners at a coal operation. This is from a story on the Metro News website from Brad McElhaney. Miners at a coal operation owned by Governor Jim Justice's family have filed a federal class action lawsuit over bounced checks. The lawsuit was filed in U.S. District Court for the Southern District of West Virginia in Beckley. It is against Bluestone Industries and also names the governor's grown children, Jay and Jill Justice, directors of the business. Also named is James Miller, secretary and treasurer for Bluestone. Governor Justice became president and chief executive of Bluestone Industries in 1993 after his father's death. His long association with the company is still spelled out on his official biography on the governor's office website. During late 2008, early 2009, Justice negotiated the $568 million sale of Bluestone and most of the rest of the family's coal holdings to a Russian company and then bought it back in 2015 after they struggled with the investment for just $5 million. It appears that the company is now bouncing paychecks. We brought in labor attorney specialist Garry Geffert, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line, to address this. Now, Garry, good morning. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Morning. Flooding just sounds awful.
It is, Garry, and again, I just don't understand how the state can be short of road closed signs after we've passed a $1 billion plus road bond. I'm blown away by that.
No money in the budget for the signs.
Let's talk about an employee's opportunity for redress after a bounced paycheck and what the employer's obligation is. Garry, you have worked in labor law your entire career, and a few people would know as much about this topic as you. That's why we've invited you in. Can you tell us about this?
Well, first thing is the obligation is not to bounce the checks.
Amen.
Federal law, state law, you work, payday, you get your check, and it ought to clear. And if it doesn't, then you haven't been paid your wages at all. And there are a couple statutes that come in, and they're the two that are cited in the lawsuit you were talking about. One is the Fair Labor Standards Act. It's a federal law that requires payment of minimum wage and, in some circumstances, overtime. And if your check bounces, then you have received zero wages, and so you haven't been paid the minimum wage. And then the second statute is the West Virginia Wage Payment and Collection Act, which also requires timely payment of wages, and particularly timely payment within a short period of time if you are fired or laid off or the business closes down, and imposes some penalty. It used to be 3 times the unpaid wages, but because of the rush of the West Virginia legislature to make West Virginia safe for bad businesses, that's been reduced to 2 times, but still it's a not insignificant penalty. And that's what the lawsuits are around here. The thing that struck me, and I went and I read the complaints that were online last night, is that the companies say, well, they did better because they wired money to the various banks of the employees. Apparently they're paying by electronically. But then the employees are bearing, the bounce check fee. I don't know what it is there. At banks that I do some business with, that's $12 a check, and a wire transfer fee. I've got no idea how much that is because I just don't do that stuff. But you take $12 and say it's $20 for a wire transfer fee. You've now reduced that guy's gross wages by $30, and apparently the companies expect the employees to bear that cost, and the law says they don't have to.
So in most cases then, Garry, because it's sort of surprising to me that they're wire transferring nothing into these bank accounts. How do you wire transfer nothing into a bank account?
Well, apparently what happened first they sent the checks and then the money wasn't there to cover it.
Oh, so they sent a paper check to the employees.
I don't know how
Yeah.
the lawsuit wasn't clear on how they paid the first time, whether they did by a paper check or whether they it probably was a paper check if they're bouncing them.
Is this happening with consistency, or was this a one-time thing, or do we know?
It isn't clear from the lawsuit. It isn't clear from the lawsuit whether they did it.
Would this be
The article says it's happened more than once.
Would this be a news item if it weren't the governor, I wonder? Would this be something that
Well, it ought to be.
Well, I agree with you.
You know,
I totally agree with you. It should be, but I just wonder if it would be.
Well, it's a major employment. It's not exactly something new. I don't know if you remember a few years back when there was the boy, I'm reaching for the name now. It was a marketing outfit that opened in Martinsburg. They got state funds, guarantees on loans to expand their business, and then they just closed up, and people didn't get their last paychecks. And it was a mess. I mean, it's not I wouldn't call it a frequent occurrence, but when it happens with large numbers of people, then you've got a newsworthy story because you got a whole bunch of people out of it, out of the situation. And especially bad. Governor Justice, I don't think, is hurting for money.
Would not appear to be the case. He sold for $568 million and bought back for $5 million.
Yeah, but I've seen it mostly. Well, you see it every place. That who gets protected are the people at the top. I was just reading an article about Toys R Us, which went belly up twice. First, they did a reorganization of bankruptcy, and now they've closed down. And before they closed down, they gave $8 million in bonuses to their upper management people, and then they laid everybody else off. All the hourly workers, all the guys making $10-15 an hour, they're out of luck. The guys at the top are in good shape with the performance bonuses for driving a company into
not to mention people like me who had gift cards still from when my kids were younger to Toys R Us.
That is so wrong. It's like, okay, here's $8 million, guys and gals, for running a business into the ground and failing, but we're going to, that's your reward. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but back in when Merrill Lynch and Lehman Brothers were going down the tubes in the last big recession, there were a lot of, like, particularly Merrill Lynch was the one that stuck out for me, that they're going through bankruptcy because they're $30-40 billion in debt, and applying to the court for permission to get retention bonuses or bonuses for their upper management people to stay on. And their argument was that, well, we've got it. If we don't pay them, we're going to lose our best people. And Jon Stewart on the Daily Show, I said, had the best line. When you drive a company $40 billion in debt, you don't have any best people.
Yeah, the guest we had on not too long ago about the stock market, a guy who was a fund manager himself, talked about that very critically and made some great points, and that's another good one right there. Garry, back to paychecks. You made a statement before. If you receive a paycheck that bounces, of course, your own bank hits you with the fee for trying to cash a bounced paycheck. You get hit on that as a person trying to cash a check. And you said there's no way to recover those funds because that's the law. Is that what you said?
No, just the opposite. That the employee's got to get paid their wages in full, free and clear. All an employer is allowed to take out are deductions required by law: federal, state withholding taxes, FICA, Medicare. If there are some withholdings that are permitted because they're explicit private agreements, union dues, health insurance premiums, payments which are go into an IRA or savings account. Other than that, they've got to pay free and clear, and an employer cannot be requiring the employee to bear the costs of a bounce check.
So if I try to cash a check you write to me, and it bounces. Let's say Garry Geffert wrote Rob Mario a check that bounced.
Okay.
My bank hits me with the fee for trying to cash a bounced check. Do I have any legal recourse to get you to cover the cost the bank just charged me for trying to cash a bounced check?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the employees can still go to their employer to get that money back.
Yeah, and even general laws. There is a couple statutes on bouncing checks that first you've got to, for even in a non-employment situation, that you write a letter, you demand payment. If they don't make a payment, then you can go to magistrate court and get your money back, along with the bounce check fee. Now, the problem with that applies for the non-employee situation is that if you need to get an attorney to do it, you don't get your attorney's fees back. That is not true in the employment situation, because both the Fair Labor Standards Act and the West Virginia Wage Payment Collection Act say that if somebody's got to get an attorney to help you collect your wages, then the employer has to pay your attorney's fees. So that's not coming out of your pocket.
Garry, thank you very much for your time this morning. I appreciate you lending your expertise on this.
My pleasure. Stay dry and stay off the flooded roads.
Yeah, that's good
Good luck
advice.
getting home, David.
Yeah, really.
Really.
Yeah. Hey, oh, by the way, Garry, before you go, I was listening to a story this morning about a White Sox player who had an aneurysm in the dugout a few weeks ago and is finally up and healthy and moving around again. He was out, I guess, in a coma for 5 days. Didn't remember any of it. I thought of you because I know you're a White Sox fan.
Oh yeah, Danny Farquhar.
Yeah.
He's a journeyman pitcher and was getting another shot at the big leagues. And that must have been pretty. Just collapsed, walked off the mound, collapsed in the dugout, and they got him to the hospital quickly and saved his life.
Yeah,
it's pretty scary.
That's a serious thing.
Yes, fortunately for him, it happened in the dugout around the medical staff of a professional baseball
That's exactly right.
Yeah, Garry, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Take care, guys.
8:30. Our break for the news is coming up in a second here, and then we'll be back. Financial Phil from Bunker Hill will join us in a moment. Dow futures are up 140 points after a strong close Friday. A good start to Monday, it would appear, at least anyway.
I've survived every situation, knowing when to freeze and when to run. And regret is just a memory written on my brow, and there's nothing I can do.
CBS News Update. At least 25 people have been killed, and the death toll could go much higher after an eruption at Guatemala's volcano of fire. President Jimmy Morales through an interpreter.
We think that there could be a state of devastation in at least 3 areas.
Some villages buried in lava, roads are covered with ash. CBS's Don Daler.
Rescue operations are just beginning again this morning after being suspended last night due to the dangerous conditions. People living in villages near the volcano didn't have much time or warning to escape the lava flow.
Volcanologist Matthew Watson says the Volcán de Fuego is one of Central America's most active.
It's erupted about once a month until the end of 2017. In 2018, this is actually only the second significant eruption that's occurred.
Officials estimate more than 1 million people have been affected by the volcano's eruption. CBS News Update. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Molly Delgado, who allegedly set her home on fire in January of last year, killing her 2 children, will be going to trial next week. The Falling Waters woman's being charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree arson. Last week, Delgado pleaded not guilty to all charges and waived her right to a speedy trial. It's alleged that during an interview following the incident, Delgado confessed to igniting 2 fires, one on each of the children's beds, before leaving the home and locking the door behind her. The Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority asked for and got $30,000 from the Berkeley County Council to help fund the bus route to the MARC train station in Brunswick through the next fiscal year. The Journal reports EPTA's already gotten that same amount from the Jefferson County Commission, and the state's also kicked in $30,000. 54-year-old Norris Domer of Martinsburg's accused of sexually assaulting a girl. He's being charged with 3 counts of sexual offenses and was arraigned last week. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We've got some cooler, drier, very fresh and comfortable air coming into the Eastern Panhandle here for the next couple of days. Cool front crossing the area now, bringing in the northwesterly winds, and that'll keep temperatures down a bit from where they have been. We'll be close to average with highs in the middle 70s, and the northwest breeze at about 10 to 15, a little bit gustier at times. And with clear skies tonight, diminishing winds, lows first thing in the morning back to about 54 degrees. Tomorrow, sunshine to start, but clouds on the increase. Another western and northwestern system coming in could bring an isolated shower or two late in the day, and a forecast high near 76. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio, WRNR.
EPTA invites you to take advantage of their rider programs, the $5 all-day pass, the monthly pass, and the Get a Job, Get a Ride program. Visit EPTAWV.com for further details and come ride with us. This message brought to you by EPTA, the Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority. For schedules and rider information, visit EPTAWV.com. EPTA serves Berkeley and Jefferson counties.
Take the bus, come ride with us.
As Hasanovich goes to second with a 2 RBI double, and Martinsburg is on the board first.
This is West Virginia State Delegate and former Little League All-Star Jason Barrett. I can still remember those summer days, the fun of playing baseball, building friendships, and learning lessons that are still with me today as I serve the people of the 61st District. I'm proud to support this year's All-Stars and wish the best to each team.
61st District Delegate Jason Barrett. Trusted leadership, real solutions. Coming soon, it's Little League All-Star Baseball.
Sends a high drive deep into right field. Leaping in the air, Colin Weaver has a tick off of his glove and go to the wall. Making his turn at third. Here comes Bailey, and he slides in safely at the plate.
The quest to reach the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania begins June 22nd with the District 6 Area 1 10 to 12-year-old All-Star Tournament. Now's the time for your local business to help bring the action to the radio. For advertising information, contact Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports radio station.
Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Common Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg.
Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
Welcome back to the program. This segment of Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave brought to you by L.A. Roberts Jewelers, committed to excellence in quality design and craftsmanship in historic downtown Martinsburg. Welcome back to the half hour, Davey.
Hey, good morning. This is these are very delicious right there, by the way.
Yes. Let me just say.
Have you tried one yet?
I have, during the news break. The key to happiness for us as hosts of this show
is sugar.
It really is.
And pasta and cheese.
So
donuts.
You'll have to carry the mic while I hold these up to the camera. I don't think that'll be a challenge for you, but give it a shot.
Okay, there you go. Rob is now holding up these. What would you call those? Strawberry crumbles, and they are delicious. Mrs. Hornby made them fresh from her pickings over the weekend from her strawberry patch.
These are freshly grown strawberries.
They are really good, and I know what that's like because I also picked my first batch of strawberries from our garden on Saturday.
You know, I don't know. You didn't make me anything, but Kresha did.
She loves you a lot more than I do. So if we're going to get into a love contest,
I need you to like me as much as the rest of your family does.
That will never happen. Not that I don't love you, I do, but they're just like, I mean, it's insane. Laura said something yesterday about the Friday show, and essentially she said, I was disappointed that you talked more than Rob did on Friday. We need to hear from Rob, too. I said, what's wrong with hearing from me? So there you go, Laura. Laura needs you on those Friday morning political talks to step it up a little bit, she said.
I really like that girl. I do.
Oh, yeah, I do, too. I like her less now than I used to, but I do. I still like her,
She
though.
made me a bee catcher, which has caught a couple of bees for me.
I think she's got a thing for you. That's what I think.
Well, Dave, you shouldn't imply that sort of thing about your own daughter.
Well, that's okay. She's a grown woman.
She's a married woman.
That's true. But I think even married people are allowed to admire other people, admire their qualities. I mean, I'm not saying have a crush on that would be wrong, but I think we're allowed to admire the qualities. And she's happily married, and she admires your many qualities, Rob.
I think that
once she found out you weren't a big fat guy,
which many people think I am.
I met you in person.
Yeah. I think I'm best liked from afar when you're not around me a while. Like she's seen me in person like what, once, twice.
Yeah, you mean if someone, for those of us on the planet, and I can only think of one who have to sit here and look at you from 2 feet away 2 hours every day, the luster wears off fast.
I've been told that.
Yeah, there you go.
Just
as long as Colleen doesn't tell you that, you're in good shape.
Via the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line, it's time for financial Phil at his segment. Good morning, Philly.
Happy Monday, guys. How are you?
I'm great, dude.
We're good. We're having a good time. Wish you were here.
I've got these strawberry crumbles, and they're amazing.
I was going to try to make it in there today, but it didn't. I couldn't make it before 8:35, so I had to hightail it to the office.
Well, with that CrossFit body that you have, Phil, I doubt that you ever eat anything like this with sugar in it.
Well, I don't know about that. I've never been a big sweets guy, so I don't need. I didn't even need a lot of sweets back in the good old days when I was playing for Shepherd.
Phil,
you were in training then.
Pete Urish would have just buried you if you were sitting around eating a bunch of cupcakes, bro.
Yeah, well, he had noticed my plate. Remember, I was over 300 pounds back then, and that got to be a problem at some point. But we would go on away trips, and I always had to keep an eye out for Pete looking at my plate.
What a beast you were! I can't even imagine you being over 300 pounds.
Yeah, I was well over 300. I think I've sent Rob pictures before. Some people put some on Facebook that I'd shared.
What was your best time in the 40 at 300 pounds?
My best time in the 40 was a 5.1.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all. That's moving down the track pretty well.
Phil, were you happy at 300 pounds?
I was fat and happy, man. Yeah, I had no worries. I ate what I wanted when I wanted, and the only time I wasn't happy though was when we would weigh in after being gone for a few weeks. That was normally humiliating, but Pete made sure of it.
How do you call that Caps game tonight?
You know what? I want to get into hockey. I have never watched a hockey game in my life. I've tried. I couldn't keep up with the puck. I didn't know what was going on.
Oh, okay.
I've got to find another sport besides football and basketball. And I tried hockey, couldn't figure it out, but I think I'm going to give it another go.
The one, whether you're a hockey fan or not, if you're in the Washington D.C. general metro area, I would include us in that wide area. That the excitement of this area over the Caps being in the Stanley Cup is quite electrifying, I think.
It is. I thought they had won. I was watching the news, but I had the volume turned down. I thought the series was over, and to come find out they just won a game. I thought they won this. I thought they won the whole thing.
Today at Cap Center, there will be at 4:00 a concert starts. They'll have several bands. They'll have lots of food vendors and whatever. They're going to have for those who can't get inside to the arena, they'll have big screens outside so you can watch the game. And there's going to be like 5 times as many people outside the arena than inside the arena. And the nice thing, of course, in Washington, because it's such, it is the divided city politically in the country of all of the cities because of what goes on there. It's sort of nice from time to time to have something happen where there's no bickering over Republicans and Democrats. I mean, just for a moment, we can experience a unified city.
Now, if I ever get into hockey, I have to pledge my allegiance to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Thank you, Phil.
I have to do that in advance. But I'm going to try. My brother swears if I go to a game, it will change everything. So I'm going to try to make it. I'm going to try to make a game.
Yeah, that's the thing about hockey, more so than any other sport. It's a totally different experience in the arena than on television.
Oh my!
He went to a Penguins game, and he said he was just like me. He said, I couldn't understand it. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't find the puck on TV. So along with our blindness, we have a lot of things in common, that being one of them. He said, but after he went to a game, it all changed. He knew what was going on. He could find it on TV. It all changed. He's become a hockey fan all of a sudden.
Many years ago, Laura and I happened to have, talk about luck, tickets to a Penguins game that we were going to. We had received them from a friend who had season tickets, and it happened to be the game Mario Lemieux came back. Remember, he was.
You just happened to go to his comeback game?
Yeah.
You know how expensive those tickets were?
Just happened to go.
I hate you right now.
Just happened to go to the comeback
That's like
game.
college tuition for
It was.
those
It was maybe the best sporting event I've ever attended, and I'm not that big of a hockey fan. I'm a very mild, average, whatever. Watch the playoffs kind of hockey.
You're
fan.
Forrest Gump. You know that?
But yeah,
you appear at every major thing that happens.
We happen to have them, and here's the deal:
you're like the guy with the rainbow hair and the John 3:16 sign back in the 80s.
So this is a friend who he has season tickets, and he gave me 2 tickets. Debbie didn't want to go. Laura really wanted to go. So Laura and I made a dad-daughter trip to the game. When he found out Mario was coming back to the game, he asked for them back,
Sure.
and I wouldn't give them back.
And you're not even a Penguins fan.
He never gave me tickets again.
I would. You're like that Seinfeld episode.
I said, no, we've got plans. We're going to the game.
I can't believe you were at Lemieux's comeback game, and I'm just hearing about this now. They actually did like the Batman sign on the Civic Arena that night. They put the 66 on there. It was awesome.
And when he came, I was in the old Igloo, and that only said about 14,000 only. But I mean,
but they actually expanded that to about 17.
Did they really? Okay, but it was electrifying, and they were nice. You have the kind of seats too where season ticket holders sit, not just the general public. So they were nice mid-ice seats.
I watched that game on television, and it was absolutely everything you had expected and hoped it would be. He got an assist, I think, on his first shift. He got a goal later on. It was amazing.
It was amazing, yeah. We were living in Pittsburgh then.
Bill, I follow what Macy's is doing since they are obviously a big presence in the community. Their stock is up 41% on the year. And on the CNBC website, they say the retail apocalypse is over, and it's time to go long on Macy's. This is what an analyst on the CNBC website says. And certainly their stock is going bananas this year. 41% calendar year to date is quite impressive. And I'm wondering how Macy's might be escaping the retail apocalypse that Amazon has caused for so many retailers like Sears. We heard closed another 72 stores last week.
Well, I wonder if it's their online presence. I don't know if you've ever checked Macy's out online, but I have. But I used to go to the Macy's in Hagerstown, and they've got quite the online presence. So I don't know if that's part of it or not, but it seems like there's somewhat of a bounce with the brick and mortar. Even Amazon has apparently going to have some brick and mortar locations where you can go there and look at things. So I don't know if there's a bounce on the brick and mortar, walk in, touch, feel, see your products before you purchase them or not. But you're right, as you were saying that was something I wasn't aware of was their success this year, and I just looked it up and I was like, wow, they really have taken off. Now when you look at the historical data on Macy's and some of these brick and mortar, the bigger picture, the farther you back up, it takes some of the shine off. But of late, they have done better, and on top of it, they've shed a lot of expenses. So you have a lot of just think of the Hagerstown store. A lot of those locations have been shut down. Therefore, you're cutting a lot of expenses, so it makes your bottom line look much better.
We had a good day to close Friday after a pretty terrible week leading up to Friday with the markets, and it looks like the futures markets are all up this morning. Asian markets, European markets, everybody up so far this morning on what looks to be some fairly decent news with North Korea and other things as well. Oil prices are now as low as they've been since April, and even the New York Times is praising the Trump economy after the last jobs report that came out Friday, Phil.
Well, the confusing thing, and I could find, I did actually, I always say this, it's kind of beating a dead horse, but we like to give credit or place blame, and I don't know which one is appropriate, but it wasn't too long ago where we got good economic data back in February that caused a correction because we were afraid that interest rates were going to go up at a quicker pace. So our fear was, okay, we get too good of news, it's too much of a good thing, and the rates are going to go up. So now this morning, It's just the exact opposite. So I don't really know the impact of good economic news anymore, where sometimes it's blamed for causing our markets to drop, and sometimes it's seen as a good thing. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but one thing that you would have a hard time arguing, like him or not, the Trump economy has done well. And we look at this year, and some would point the finger and say, hey, look how everything's starting to crumble, everything's starting to fall apart. All of our major indices, now they're not setting the world on fire, but when you consider this year when most people would think it's been a bad year, well, it necessarily hadn't been a bad year. It's been pretty flat. NASDAQ is up quite a bit. S&P is still positive, and the Dow is about even year to date. And most people, if you just, me included, if you just ask, hey, how's the markets doing this year, you would say, well, so far year to date, it's bad. They're not doing very well. In all actuality, they're flat. Now, your portfolios maybe struggle a little bit because of bond returns, depending on what kind of bonds you have in there. So your overall portfolio may be down some, but the equities aren't the blame, per se, for that. So the economy's doing fine. And as John likes to say, stock prices will follow company earnings. Company earnings tend to follow the economic data. Consumer spending is up. Unemployment's at the lowest point it's been in 19 years. While wages is up, it's not at a point that makes you too afraid of hyperinflation. So wages are moving up, but not at a pace that's too quick. So things do look positive. Now that summit, our allies at the summit who kind of gave us a reprimand over the Trump tariffs, and there's some news coming out today, or there's some talks anyway, about tariffs with China. China's the big one. I think all the others would be small compared to what China would be. And when you read, depends on the websites where you read and the articles where you're reading, some refer to it as a trade war. And I think it's a little bit of an exaggeration so far. But I think China would be the big one. I'm anxious to see what happens with China.
I heard an interview this morning with Jim. I think Jim Bohannon was doing it on America in the Morning, which we run from 5 until 6 a.m., and the expert they had on was talking about Donald Trump and tariffs and trade wars. And he said Trump doesn't want trade wars. He doesn't want tariffs. This is all, he's a negotiator. He's a deal maker. This is all part of his overall strategy for negotiating better deals. And sometimes when you're negotiating a better deal, there's got to be a little short-term pain that goes with getting some long-term gain. Do you buy into that?
I do, and especially with China, because they've long been ones that kind of break the rules in terms of the world economy. Point back to, I think it was August 2015, where they artificially devalued their currency, and it had a huge negative impact on us, and it was all done artificially. And again, that was why I thought, my impression anyway, when Trump was winning, why our markets dropped so swiftly that evening, was our fears with trade on China, because he had said in his campaign that he wasn't going to put up with that. He would do tariffs and so forth and so on. He said that from day one, and my personal thought was that's why things were dropping. So I do buy into it. I think it's with China, and hopefully it can be accomplished without tariffs and without too much short-term pain. But with China, I think it's warranted. I think we do, and especially because of their size, we have to pay attention when they break these international economic rules. We absolutely have to pay attention, and there has to be some sort of reprimand. And we're kind of the only ones that can do it, and that would have any major impact. So now the means in which he does it, whether it be threats on Twitter or whatever it would be, but I think something needs to be done. Hopefully that can be accomplished without tariffs actually going into place.
Does this summit with North Korea impact American markets at all?
I don't know. We talked about that last week.
We did,
and
yeah.
I would think that it would.
I would think it would too. I mean,
I would think that it would, but I don't know. While we pay more attention to Korea than what we did with the last administration, because we just kind of shrugged them off. We're paying more attention to them, but I don't know that our markets pay that much attention to them. But I think that it would have some impact. Good on they're giving up some of their weapons, or bad if they're not, because any type of war, whether or not you're going to win it or not. Now, some asset classes would absolutely see benefit from war, but overall, our economy, I would think, would struggle some from it. So I would think that it would, but I've yet to see clear evidence other than it be a sub-headline of giving credit or placing blame on something.
I would think, too, it might depend on the outcome of those talks. If there's something that's actually signed or agreed upon that day in which they're together, they're only going to be together one day. So the fact that there is an actual meeting, I would imagine, could make people feel better. And you've even said that, to some degree, investing in the market can be an emotional thing sometimes, too.
It absolutely is. Yep.
And so that probably is a plus. But I think to some degree we have to see what the outcome of that meeting is going to be.
Yeah, and I think, and aside from as far as our markets are concerned, and I'd always say that we kind of shrug off international economic news. That goes a little different with China, and it also would go a little different when you're talking about war. So I think this week for our markets, where normally we're looking for company earnings and seeing the direction, I think the biggest movement this week's going to be what is determined from this talks.
But with these tariffs, though, with our friendly countries, especially the Western European countries, what are the sectors in the U.S. that are helped by that? Do you think, Phil?
Well, it sounds, and I wouldn't think that because of if they turned back around and put tariffs on our incoming products, and I don't know that that's a threat yet or not, but the sectors that would be helped should be coal and steel. You would think would be coal and steel, because I think it's on their metals, correct?
Yeah, it does. But does that at some point, though, filter into perhaps higher consumer prices here? Because if we're buying those kinds of things cheaper from outside the country, and that's leading to, at some point, consumers are actually buying that, could that lead to an inflationary situation?
It could, but inflation's something we oftentimes place like a negative connotation on inflation, but inflation is healthy, and inflation is, to a certain extent, it's good, but it's almost like salt. It's a little bit of it's good, but if you put too much on it, it ruins everything. So we want some inflation, 2.5–3% inflation, and that's kind of where we've been. That's what we waited so long for, is our inflation to come back so we could raise rates a little bit. And it didn't, so we started doing it in advance of. But inflation isn't necessarily a bad thing. Now, I always talk about the gas prices when I came up here in '93 and how much things cost, and we all do that. But it's also, you have an income expectation also rises with that. So if inflation goes up and wages are going up, it's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a healthy economy.
We hear 2 more interest rate increases this year, 2 more next year, for a total of 4, and then that's it. It would seem back to neutral is what I'm hearing, Phil.
Periodic, yep.
Right, and I guess the next meeting is it today or is it later this week? Do you know off the top of your head?
I thought it was tomorrow, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so we're expecting, another quarter point? Or do you think they're going to keep doing the quarter point thing?
I hope they keep doing the quarter of a point, and that's kind of what I expect, and that's why I was somewhat surprised with this good economic data that we got, that our markets are still green, because the way we've been behaving before is, okay, well, if we got too good of economic news just before that rate increase, they may make it more stiffer or swifter than what they were doing before, and our markets would drop, and we didn't see that today. So it leads to my confusion on what impact the interest rates and or this economic data has on our markets. There
was a stat that came out last week that the top 25 hedge fund traders in the country, Phil, averaged $615 million in annual income last year, and that the top 4 each made over $1 billion. Do you regret not being a hedge fund manager, Phil?
No.
Because I do.
No, I don't. There's now I'd like to hear what the bottom 10%, what they made, or how many bankruptcies they have. Hedge funds are an interesting asset class, or they're interesting investments. On some levels, you hear hedge funds, and most of us think, oh boy, they're really volatile and they're doing some risky things in there. But in some cases, in a lot of cases, hedge funds are kind of boring, and they're achieved with option sales and covered calls, and there's not as much risk in them as what you would imagine, but there's a liquidity risk in those hedge funds. So in order to get into some of these hedge funds, you have to have a really high net worth, and you have to qualify before you can invest in a true hedge fund. There's a way to get exposure to it without going directly into the hedge funds, but they're not overall as aggressive as what we think. When we hear hedge fund, we think, boy, they're aggressive and they're really risky, but the risk lies within the liquidity of those investments. But no, I don't regret that. I'm very happy with with what I do right here in Martin.
Phil, you'd be happier with $615 million of annual income, though.
I don't know. Remember, we always got to think of the I always forget his name, but the Beckley lottery winner. I don't know. Maybe that would do that to me. I don't know. Right. I hope not, but maybe it would.
You'd be making it rain. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I'd be making it rain somewhere, yeah.
All right, Phil, good to talk with you, buddy.
You guys have a great week.
Financial Phil from Bunker Hill, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line, Mr. David Welch.
Indeed.
$615 million in annual
That's
income.
a lot of money.
Even after taxes, that's a lot of money.
That's just
mercy.
I've got my son's friend graduated from William and Mary with him, but like 10 years ago, and he's on Wall Street in New York City. He's a young guy in his early 30s making literally millions of dollars a year. It's a great field.
Yes.
You're cut out for it.
Yeah, indeed, man. It's 9 o'clock. In the next hour, we have a special announcement we're going to make. And
nice. I like special announcements.
Well, very good. Then you'll want to stick around.
Yeah, I will. I think I will stick around.
It's involving a very famous person who will be in town.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
And one of my childhood idols.
Oh, really?
I would tell you.
Nice.
Yeah.
I always like learning new stuff about you, Rob.
Susan Snowden will be joining us after the 9 o'clock news break. And Tiffany Hendershot, who is the executive director of the Martinsburg Initiative. She'll be here. That's
very nice.
That's starting to pick up some steam.
Very nice.
We're going to talk to Tiffany about that. Come on.
I love that.
9 o'clock. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. A murder mystery in Scottsdale, Arizona. A fourth person has been shot to death in 3 days. Police Sergeant Ben Hoster.
We are encouraging folks to go back to work, but we're telling them to remain vigilant. We believe that these are not random shootings.
CBS's Maria Villarreal.
Police say they recovered evidence linking the three murder victims. They're also trying to determine if hypnotherapist and life coach Marshall Levine is the gunman's fourth victim. The 72-year-old was shot dead in his office Saturday, not far from the other crime scenes.
The other victims include Dr. Stephen Pitt, a noted forensic psychiatrist who was part of the John Benet Ramsey murder investigation. He was killed Thursday. 2 paralegals were shot dead the following day. There's been a devastating earthquake near the capital of Guatemala. At least 25 people are dead. Many more may be trapped beneath lava that's covered over 3 villages, leaving them inaccessible to rescuers. Volcanologist Matthew Watson.
The scale and speed of the eruption is unprecedented in recent times.
Government officials waited for 4 hours until lava was flowing down the banks of the volcano before they ordered evacuations. Molten lava has isolated 2 neighborhoods on Hawaii's Big Island, rocked by the Kilauea volcano. CBS's Carter Evans says 10 people are still in their homes.
There were no injuries among the 3 people that were airlifted out on Sunday, but we understand there are still some people in that area who refuse to evacuate. They just want to stay no matter what.
President Trump tweeting this morning after a leaked memo from his legal team arguing he can pardon himself. Mr. Trump says he has the absolute right, but asks, why would he when he's done nothing wrong in connection with the Russia investigation? A new report says Medicare recipients aren't filling as many prescriptions for pricey name brand drugs, but they're still spending a small fortune on medications. Live to CBS's Vicki Barker.
The Health and Human Services watchdog blames drug makers for squeezing older people and taxpayers. The number of prescriptions for brand name medications under Medicare's Part D drug program fell 17% over 5 years, yet spending on those same medications rose 40%, the biggest markups on brand name insulin, cholesterol drugs, and asthma inhalers. No sign yet of the voluntary massive drug price cuts President Trump has hinted are in the offing. Deborah?
In Jordan. The royal palace says King Abdullah has accepted the resignation of the country's prime minister. He stepped down amid massive protests over a planned tax increase and a series of price hikes for basics, including fuel and electricity. S&P futures up 9. This is CBS News.
Zoom video conferencing, featuring video and audio clarity with screen sharing. Free accounts are available at zoom.us. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Do you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS? Are you facing potential wage garnishments, levies, or tax liens? With a call to the Attorney's Tax Relief Helpline, you can get the tax help you need through special programs that can reduce your liability by thousands of dollars. Pick up your mobile phone and dial *1234. Yes, that's right. Pick up your mobile phone and dial *1234. Once you've qualified and enrolled, the IRS will stop all collection activities against you. Attorney's Tax Relief has been helping consumers reduce their debt and are trusted and accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Again, on your mobile phone, dial *1234. That's *1234. If you owe the IRS $10,000 or more, call Attorney's Tax Relief now and get free information and to see if you qualify. You can fix this, but don't wait any longer. Pick up your mobile phone and dial *1234. That's
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Berkeley County Sheriff Curtis Keller asked for and got more than $78,000 in additional funds for his office. The county council approving the money Thursday night, and it'll be used right away for more than 20 items, including office supplies, hotel reservations, bulletproof vests, uniform covers, and a snowplow blade. West Virginia U.S. Senator Joe Manchin is visiting the Eastern Panhandle today. He'll be at the Anna Mae Reedy Senior Center in Ransom this morning and the Jefferson Day Report Center in Ransom this afternoon to visit with seniors and those struggling with substance abuse. The Wellness Center at WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center announcing a youth summer fitness program called Well Kids Fun in Training, or Well Kids Fit. Children between the ages of 5 and 11 can participate. It was created as a workout for kids while their parents or grandparents are working out in the fitness center. The program begins June 19th and ends August the 2nd. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We've got some cooler, drier, very fresh and comfortable air coming into the Eastern Panhandle here for the next couple of days. Cool front crossing the area now, bringing in the northwesterly winds, and that'll keep temperatures down a bit from where they have been. We'll be close to average with highs in the middle 70s, and the northwest breeze at about 10 to 15, a little bit gustier at times. And with clear skies tonight, diminishing winds, lows first thing in the morning back to about 54 degrees. Tomorrow, sunshine to start, but clouds on the increase. Another western and northwestern system coming in could bring an isolated shower or two late in the day, and a forecast high near 76. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio, WRNR.
This is Joe Ferretti of Hammer, Ferretti & Schiavone. The laws are changing drastically in West Virginia, and more than ever, you'll need an attorney with a reputation and a history of good results handling your personal injury claim. At my law firm, each attorney has at least 28 years of experience winning cases. Ask about our reputation and history of proven results. We know these comparisons will convince you to call Hammer, Ferretti & Schiavone at 264-8505. Call for a free meeting to discuss your case. And of course, you can find us on the web at hfslawyers.com.
As Asanovich goes to second with a 2 RBI double, and Martinsburg is on the board first.
This is West Virginia State Delegate and former Little League All-Star Jason Barrett. I can still remember those summer days, the fun of playing baseball, building friendships, and learning lessons that are still with me today as I serve the people of the 61st District. I'm proud to support this year's All-Stars and wish the best to each team.
61st District Delegate Jason Barrett. Trusted leadership, real solutions. For all the latest in sports, keep it tuned to Talk Radio WRNR. The Dogs are now 8-7. They're at 12-4. Jefferson tonight. Martinsburg coach Josh Matheny.
We want them to develop, each and every day.
We've got 9 award-winning sportscasts each weekday, 5 in the mornings from 6 to 8:30 a.m. and 4 each afternoon, 2 during Noon News Magazine and 2 during Live at 5. Get your sports straight from the source on FM 106.5 and AM 740.
Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, brought to you in this segment by the Washington Nationals. Friday, June 8th, is Ryan Zimmerman Bobblehead Night. Presented by Delta Airlines, the first 25,000 fans pick up the third of 5 Nationals bobbleheads this season when the Nats face the San Francisco Giants at 7:05. Visit nationals.com today. Remember how big bobbleheads were when they first came out? Everybody had to have bobbleheads.
Well, they're big right here in my life because I've got about a dozen of them right in front. I've got Washington Nationals, lots of Washington Nationals there, and then right in the middle of it is a Caps bobblehead. That would be their mascot, and then right next to the Caps is a Donald Trump bobblehead. So I don't know how he fits. I think Judy Boykin brought that to us.
Yes, she did actually.
Okay.
She was on the Trump bandwagon early.
And then if you go just a little bit over, you can see our woodpecker.
And of course, you can always hear the woodpecker. Yeah,
there you go. Okay.
That's funny no matter how many times I hear it.
And can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you... You're so funny about holding those things up.
Hold them up to
Can
the
you
camera.
take these delicious strawberry crumbles away from me, please?
Question Hornby, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so
They're
much.
so good.
Because if
Would you like one, Susan?
If they sit here any longer, they're going to be gone by the end of the show.
We should refrigerate these.
Yeah, I think they're nice and cold.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Susan Snowden is our guest as we open up our 9 o'clock hour here. Susan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
How you feeling?
Great. Just got back from vacation.
You have a trend that keeps happening when you go on vacation,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
for the third time in a row, I go on vacation and I come back to a tree across my house. But there are people that have it worse than me.
Yeah, that's still not fun, though.
No, it is not.
I've been fortunate. I had a big tree fall in my front yard earlier in the early spring or late winter, and I was fortunate. It fell in the one direction it could fall without damaging anything.
That's great.
Any of the other 3 would have damaged something.
That's great.
So I was very lucky.
You are lucky.
I am.
No, really.
I'm a lucky fellow.
I mean, considering the fact, and you end up in a nice job like this, and you have no skills whatsoever, and here you are, you're doing well. You've made it through life well, not knowing anything.
It's the Peter principle.
Yeah.
I'm the living embodiment of it.
Well, talk show hosts are one of those professions. You need to know a lot about a lot of things, but you don't need to know very much about anything, right? So
what you need is one of these. A smartphone with about 1,000 numbers in it of people who know what they're talking
exactly
about.
Right. That's exactly right.
This lady knows what she's talking about. Not only is she an attorney, but if you've ever gone to the Bob Elmer Celebrity Sports Breakfast, you've no doubt run across Susan Snowden, and she is a person who now 39 years you've been working on this.
I've been working with the Mountain State Apple Harvest Festival for 39 years. And
Congratulations.
yes, that's as many years as it's been in existence in its current format. Of course, it started back in the early 20s, but yes.
And it was named after Bob Elmer what year?
The sports breakfast that is held on Saturday morning was named after Bob Elmer.
About 20 years now,
About
right?
Over 20 years ago. And Bob was a member of the Apple Harvest Board. He was also a loyal Rotarian with the Noontime, what is now Noontime Rotary, and was an integral part of having celebrities come to speak to our folks in the Panhandle.
We have a thing on the show called the Department of Corrections, where we are corrected at the end of a show with any mistakes that we make. And Bob Elmer was the inventor of that, because when I was hosting the talk show 20-something years ago at another place, we shall say, Bob would call me and make all the corrections for any grammatical errors I had or factual mistakes I had made.
Will has taken his place.
Will
has taken his place now.
Yes.
He monitors us all the time.
Bob and his wife were an institution. They attended all of the Apple Harvest events.
I loved Bob. He was just a treasure. He was a civic treasure is what he was.
And it's nice, too, that he gets to kind of live on forever because, getting an event like this named after you. And it's such a great event, too. I mean, it's always sold out. It's always packed.
It is always packed, and one thing that Rotary has done is added a component where students are brought in to be recognized from all the Eastern Panhandle high schools, which makes it a really special event.
Sure does.
And so, as part of that, our mission is to bring in a fabulous speaker to be an inspiration to not just youth, but all of us. And this year, I think we've hit it out of the ballpark. It is our 39th year. And we have someone, and so if there's someone in the radio land listening, maybe they can start to think about who it could be, because this person is a war veteran. They have a Purple Heart. They have a Bronze Star. They were a National Collegiate Football champion. They were a 4-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And do we know who it is?
Well, they had to play with the Steelers in the 70s then, I would think, whoever it is.
They did. And
Should
Rob,
should we guess?
should you guess? Because I know I was told before I came in here it was one of your childhood sports fan. You were a longtime fan of this person.
Indeed. I would like you to make the announcement, though, because 39 years, you deserve it.
Right. This year, our guest speaker for the Mountain State Apple Harvest Festival, he will be not just our sports celebrity, but our grand marshal will be Rocky Bleier.
Wow. Nice.
Big round of applause. A veteran of the Vietnam War.
That's huge.
He is.
That is so huge.
Injured in combat.
For 1968, Rocky Bleier had a banner year. He went from graduating from Notre Dame. He was in their 66 national championship football team. He was then drafted in the 16th round by the NFL Pittsburgh Steelers. And then he got drafted again by the U.S. Army. So by 1969, he was in Vietnam. And he served there until he was wounded. And he was wounded in his lower leg from an enemy grenade. And when he came back, and I expect that he'll talk about this at our events, but he was told that he would not be able to play football again. In 1970 to 71, the Steelers put him on the injured reserve, and he worked for 2 years to get himself back to the point that they put him on the active list. And then we all know by 1974, he became a member of the backfield for the Steelers and went on to win Super Bowls, championships. So he is quite an inspiration on many fronts, In the 70s, as popular as that football team was in the city, Rocky Bleier stood out among everybody because of who he was and what he embodied and what he had overcome to become what he eventually did become. Absolutely. You know, most people, when faced with a life-threatening injury, first you go through the high of being drafted to the NFL. Then you go through serving your country and being injured, and you come back. And we all know it's not like today. Veterans were not always welcome with open arms back then. But then the Steelers did put him back on the list, injured list, and he, after 2 years of off-season training, was able to make it back. And by 1975, he rushed for 163 yards, best game he ever had in his career. And by 1977, he scored the go-ahead touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Right. And in 1980, they made a movie called Fighting Back, the Rocky Bleier story. And Bleier was played by Robert Urich.
Dan Tanna. Remember that? Dan Tanna.
Exactly, yeah.
And then another exciting thing is that if you want to see Rocky Bleier, which I can't imagine that there's anyone here that's not a veteran that wants to meet him, anyone in the area that's not a sports fan that wants to meet him, and anyone who just wants to meet someone who's truly an inspiration to all of us. You can do that at several events, one of which I'm announcing for the first time is a brand new inaugural event this year. The Mountain State Apple Harvest Festival will be hosting a stag brunch on Friday, October 19th, and it will be held at the Warehouse here in Martinsburg. And the featured speaker for that will be Rocky Bleier. So, businessmen, it's stag. We ladies have the Pomona Ladies Brunch at the same time at the Holiday Inn, and we have our speaker. Now there's something for the gentlemen. We've thought that it would be fantastic to launch this inaugural stag brunch, stag lunch, and have a fabulous speaker for you.
Dudes only.
Dudes only. I mean, women could go, but why? We have our own event.
You got your own event to
that
go
we
to,
go
right?
to. And then, of course, I would urge parents to buy tickets. I would urge Steelers fans and football fans alike to buy tickets to the Bob Elmer Sports Breakfast. That will be a family-oriented event right before our Grand Feature Parade held on Saturday at the Holiday Inn.
Well, over the years, you've mixed that up. You've had Steelers, former Redskins, former Ravens. I mean, you've had, probably lots of different teams represented. So no one should ever get upset about the team that this particular star was affiliated with.
Absolutely not. And, we have a huge amount of Steelers fans here in the area.
Yeah, we do.
But we have
two right here in the room.
I know. And so then we also have had, over the years, we've even had the Harlem Globetrotters. The year that I was president, the sports celebrities just happened to be the Harlem Globetrotters. So we've had different sports. We've had Olympians, and we've had a variety of folks come speak to us. But I will say that this year's speaker and grand feature celebrity will certainly appeal to a broad spectrum of people.
When it comes to the Globetrotters, I'm still stuck back in the Curly Neal and Meadowlark
Right.
Lemon days. I've never gotten beyond that.
What we grew up with, right?
Well, and let's not forget Spud Webb, too.
Oh, there you go. Exactly.
Spud was a really good speaker as well.
The reaction is coming in already, Susan. Rocky Blyer was just honored by the Jimmy Stewart Museum in Indiana, PA for his community service. That from Alvin McGilvery, used to be the newsman here. Tom Johnson says, I hope you can have Rocky on the show. And we are definitely working toward that. And I believe also, Dave, you and I on that Friday of the stag lunch, is that called a stag breakfast or stag lunch?
I don't know exactly. I don't know what they'll call it yet. I think it's a stag lunch.
I think we're doing our show live from the warehouse that day. Right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so we'll be
broadcasting
there on hand Friday doing the talk show, too.
I'm glad you told me about that.
There are a couple other things, too, that...
I didn't know until just now.
Well, there you go. We're keeping you busy, Dave. And then, of course, I did urge everyone, one of the free events that free to the public is that the parade is always exciting, and Rocky will be in the parade after he speaks at the sports breakfast, Bob Elmer Sports Breakfast. So I'd urge everybody to keep your fingers crossed for good weather, no rain, let's hope. And in October, come out for a great
What
parade.
a nice commitment that he's making to Martinsburg, too. He's not just kind of coming in, talking, and getting the first car out of town. He's really making quite a nice commitment over the weekend to it. It's good to hear.
He is here for the weekend.
Nice.
And there are multiple opportunities for people to meet him and greet him. The other thing I'd like to say is that if there's anyone listening, go to msahf.com, find out more information off of our website. And if you are an entrepreneur thinking that you have a product that someone would like to purchase, if you are have a restaurateur that has a unique item that you are thinking about selling, we're having, instead of just an arts and crafts festival, we're having a pop-up shops and arts show. So we've changed that up. It's always exciting to change things up, and I'd urge people to go to our website.
Lots of new stuff.
I think that's great too. That you're always looking for new ways, not to reinvent a successful program, because over the years it has been, but looking for new ways to reach new people and to update it a little bit, give it a little bit of a facelift every once in a while. That's exciting.
It's important, and I have to say that we are one of the few organizations that has this big an impact economically on the Eastern Panhandle area.
Oh, that's for sure, yeah.
And we are completely 100% volunteer driven. We have no paid employees, no paid executive director. We are volunteer.
Sounds like my
board.
business. No, I'm just kidding.
Rocky Blyer spoke at my fifth grade football banquet.
No way.
Back in the...
I bet he'll remember you.
Early 70s. I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
I was the 10-year-old who was one of 70 of them who was in the room at the time.
I'm sure he's going to... Rob, Mary, I haven't seen you in years.
I'm sure he'll know me.
Yeah.
He will.
But he was incredibly funny. First off, he's a great speaker. He's very polished at what he does. And this was even before he became particularly famous, really. At the time, he was just a special teams guy with the Steelers, but hadn't even cracked the backfield yet. But he was very funny. I mean, he told some great war stories, but in a very humorous way, with some little jokes that he had mixed in there too, and talked about his time at Notre Dame. He was, if you remember, Dave, 1966, Notre Dame, Michigan State, the greatest game ever played, right?
Yes.
And in a tie. He was in that game that was at that time considered to be the college football game. We have those every year now, but at the time they weren't.
What was the
frequent.
controversy in that game at the end? Someone did not go.
Notre Dame played out ran out the clock to preserve the tie.
Preserve the tie, yes.
And Michigan State, which I think was Bubba Smith on that Michigan State team?
I think so, yes.
I think that
yes.
he was yelling across the line at Notre Dame about being cowards for not trying to win the game.
Yep.
But anyway, that was my first actual time I ever even really heard of Rocky Blyer.
Well, you were a little boy then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was born in a small town. He was born in Appleton, Wisconsin, and lived above the family business, which was Blyer's Bar.
Right.
And for a small town guy to make it to where he is today, speaking about the making it and making a comeback, it's pretty amazing. I mean, he was a 3-time All-State pick as a running back, went on then to go to Notre Dame, which in and of itself would have been a great accomplishment for any small town athlete.
Sure.
Golly, it'd be great today, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Get a scholarship to
get
Notre
a scholarship to Notre Dame. And then he went on to do great things. So then he continues today even to support communities across the country and to talk to people about reaching their potential.
Well, Susan, you've been doing this, as I said, for 39 years. I hope you never quit because you do such a great job every year doing this stuff. I mean that sincerely. I hope you don't retire from this anytime soon.
It's important for people to, for any organization to have new ideas, innovative ideas, and I will say that we keep as a board trying to improve. We look at what we have. We ask the community what they like, what they don't like. And if it's within our power to improve, we do so. And then you can see this year we're trying to keep things fresh, keep things up to date.
Great new idea
current.
with the stag breakfast or lunch, whatever it ultimately would be called, but this is kind of cool.
We did hear some guys say, gee, it just seems so unfair that you ladies get to have a brunch. So I think we're calling it a stag lunch.
We'll take it.
For the guys. And you need to get your tickets early at Flowers Unlimited. They sell our tickets for us, and the CVB can hook you up with tickets as well. And I want to thank Mike Hornby and Mark Jordan for their work in acquiring a contract with Rocky Blyer so early so that we can let people know right now and they can make arrangements to hear him speak and meet him.
Our very own Mike Hornby.
Indeed.
Very own.
It's 5 months away, so you got plenty of time for some publicity on this one.
We do.
Do you know what he's really excited about, though? His little girl is in the parade.
She is. She is a member of our minor court, so she is very excited.
She's quite the fundraiser, I understand.
She has been so far.
Really well.
Susan, over the years you go back, who's on your Hall of Fame list of best speakers ever at the Bob Elmer Breakfast?
As I told you before we went on air, probably the most inspirational and honest from the gut speaker was Ralph Sampson. He talked about how he had had a great college and beginning of a pro basketball career, suffered an injury that was a killer for his NBA career. Then he went overseas, went to Europe, played there. That didn't really rehab out well, and then he talked about how you shouldn't ever give up. And if everybody remembers, he was brought back here by Lefty Drizel and went on to coach with Lefty for a while at Maryland. So he was very inspirational. Lots of fun were the Harlem Globetrotters. You haven't lived till you see them.
How many
do
came?
basketball.
How many came when they?
You know, I can't remember
But there were
now,
several of
but there
them.
were several, and they actually got us up, including myself, at the Holiday Inn and did some tricks, and it was fun.
That's too funny.
So we've had some great.
Very nice.
The record for the shortest speech, I think, goes to Gary Clark, who the one year, and I remember seeing you sitting off the stage there because I was the MC that year, and I remember looking right at you, and Gary stood up to speak. He thanked everybody for inviting him to the Apple Harvest breakfast in Martinsburg and the parade, and then sat back down.
And that was it?
Susan
That was
went, Gary, maybe you could tell some stories about your time with the rest.
Yeah, and
because this check here hasn't cleared yet, Gary.
Are there any questions? Right. Does anybody have a question?
Somebody better have a question.
He will answer it.
Was he just shy, or did he just?
We don't know. You get celebrities in, and you just don't know. Usually, the athletes, celebrities are good at speaking. They know what they want to say and what their message is, and if nothing else, they're good at Q&A.
Yes.
They have great stories, some of which may not be good for the family event. For the Bob Elmer Sports Breakfast, but might be entirely
for the stag.
For the stag.
Oh,
yeah.
Now, Earl Morrill, I remember when Earl was speaking, Earl actually went back to the microphone to continue. I remember a story, and I want to He was
wanted to
interrupting
sell
other
it.
people's time.
Yeah. So, but again, it will be, I think, a good draw for our event. That's why we've made him our Grand Marshal, not just sports celebrity, but our Grand Marshal. He will be our featured celebrity for the entire weekend. And, you know, how many times do you get the chance to meet someone of this caliber?
Yeah, well, congratulations. That, as you said, you hit it out of the park this time, and that's well said, because that's exactly what you did. Very nice.
He's going to be great at this too, because this is how he makes his living. You know, he's been doing now the professional speaker circuit for 30 years since he retired from the NFL, 35
Correct.
years. So this is a very polished speaker, very funny, very accomplished. He's done some acting as well. He knows what he's doing.
And my goal would be maybe if we can find a way to do a public viewing of his movie as a promo running up to his speaking engagement. That would be a great opportunity for perhaps folks in school to see a story where, again, your hopes and dreams appear to be shattered and you rise like a phoenix from the ashes.
Fighting back.
Fighting back.
Yeah, I read the book, saw the movie, and watched the guy's career. Is really Rocky Bleier, very inspirational player. Susan, great to talk with you this morning. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you, Bud.
Much appreciated.
Hope to see you there.
The next time you think about retiring from what you're doing with the breakfast, call me so I can talk you out of it. Deal?
I will. Deal.
All right. Susan Snowden at 9:29. Rocky Bleier, 5 months from now, he'll be all over Martinsburg for the entire apple harvest weekend here in the Grand Marshal and the featured parade, and speaker at the Stag Breakfast, or Stag Lunch, I guess it'll be called, and then the Bob Elmer Breakfast the next morning, too. It'll be fun. 9:29. Shop Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram today and find over 150 new and used vehicles to choose from. From gas savers to SUVs to four-wheel drive trucks, all of the new and most of the pre-owned vehicles come standard with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Now you can drive away with peace of mind knowing your vehicles are covered for life. And the best part about it, there are no service requirements with Miller's, and it's all included to you at no extra cost. That's right, no extra charge, and you're not required to service with us. Just follow the manufacturer's recommendations, and you're covered for life. With great quality vehicles and a great price, you can't miss with Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Our courteous, experienced, and professional staff is waiting to assist you with finding the perfect vehicle that fits all of your needs. Unbeatable deals and excellent financing is right down the road. Stop in today. Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Route 9 and Kelly Island Road, just east of Martinsburg, or online at MillerChryslerJeep.com. Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. L.A. Roberts is Berkeley County's oldest jeweler, where every season is new and exciting. In fact, new is old school to us, and though it's nothing new, our old traditions like exceptional service, quality, and value maintain L.A. Roberts Jewelers as the old master among so many new kids on the block. Whether you are a newcomer or part of the old guard, entrust all your fine jewelry needs to L.A. Roberts, Old World Jewelers for a new age, in historic downtown Martinsburg.
This is Joe Ferretti of Hammer, Ferretti & Shivani. The laws are changing drastically in West Virginia, and more than ever, you'll need an attorney with a reputation and a history of good results handling your personal injury claim. At my law firm, each attorney has at least 28 years of experience winning cases. Ask about our reputation and history of proven results. We know these comparisons will convince you to call Hammer, Ferretti & Shivani at 264-8505. Call for a free meeting to discuss your case. And of course, you can find us on the web at hfslawyers.com.
Way down among Brazilians, coffee beans grow by the billions, so they've got to find those extra cups to fill. They got an awful lot of coffee in Brazil.
Hey, welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, brought to you in this segment by the Brown Funeral Homes and Cremations. Robert Fields and Sons, a family-owned full-service funeral home proudly serving our area since 1880.
That's a long time.
Yeah, that would be off the top of my head 138 years.
That's a long, long time.
The speaker, if you missed Susan Snowden, our last segment, the speaker now in the next Mountain State Apple Harvest Festival, breakfast, and also the feature parade, the Grand Marshal, Rocky Blyer.
Announced right here on our show, where all good things should be announced.
I agree.
I mean,
you said it well.
Center of the universe. Rocky Blyer is big, though. That's going to be a lot of fun. And again, not only will he be speaking at the Bob Elmer Sports Breakfast, but also the Grand Marshal in the parade will also be the speaker at the newly created Stag Brunch Lunch, whatever they end up calling that. And you said we're broadcasting live.
We're doing our show that Friday from the warehouse, yeah.
From 8 to 10, though, in the morning. Okay.
Yes. And then we'll be hanging around, if your workday allows you to, we'll be hanging around for the actual lunch.
Neat. It's a free lunch. I'll stay around.
Deal.
Okay.
I understand we get to eat for free.
Okay, good.
Yeah, which I'd like to offer our guests one of Crenshaw Hornby's delicious concoctions fresh from her strawberry garden called the Strawberry Crumble. Tiffany Hendershot, the executive director of the Martinsburg Initiative, and along with her, Garry McDaniel, part of her staff. Would you care for a strawberry crumble? They're quite delicious, Tiffany.
Sure, I'll try a little piece.
Yeah.
Do you have a drink?
I don't have a beverage to offer you.
That's okay.
Would you want a mimosa or what?
Yes, please, a mimosa would be great.
A Monday morning mimosa.
Yeah. Seal those back up for me, Dave, if you will.
That is delicious.
Isn't that good?
That's really good.
He wants them back.
Grisha Hornby's
I'm keeping those.
Yeah, you're only allowed to eat one. No, not really. You can have all you want.
I'll save it.
They just had to get them out of my reach because I was sitting here eating the whole top layer there. So I needed to give them away.
That's pretty good.
Pass you down a tissue so you can wipe your hands off if you need to. Tiffany, let's talk about the Martinsburg Initiative. We've had Chief Maury Richards. I know this is definitely his baby. We've had him on several times talking about this. And for the longest time, it seemed like it was kind of a dream, a concept that was out there. But now with a grant recently that was secured and some staff in place, things are starting to happen now.
Yes, sir. Things are really taking off with the Martinsburg Initiative. I did hire Garry McDaniel back in February part-time. He's from Morgan County Schools, which is where I was from as well. And so we're a great team. Garry has the strengths that we really needed to bring to the Martinsburg Initiative. So
very nice. Garry, congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure working with Tiffany again. We used to work together in Morgan County Schools. So
what did you do there? Were you teachers?
Well, actually, I was Tiffany's boss, and now she's my boss. So
that's hilarious.
Were you the principal and she was the teacher?
No, we're both clinical social workers.
Okay, gotcha.
So we started a clinical social work program in Morgan County, and then Tiffany brought some of those same concepts here to Berkeley County.
Yeah, I used to live over in Morgan County for many years. My two sons are graduates of Berkeley Springs High School, Andrew and Peter Welch.
Oh yeah, Andrew Welch. I think I went to high school with him.
I think you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I knew Peter quite well.
Okay.
So yeah.
Very nice. And I should also point out that Tiffany outranks everybody here, too, Dave. Unless Garry has something to tell me I don't know.
No, she outranks me for sure.
Tiffany is in the Air National Guard, and soon, I guess, a little transfer taking place, right?
Yes, next Wednesday, the 13th. Is that Wednesday? I think it's Wednesday. I'll be going down to Charleston, and I'll take the oath of office for the Army National Guard for West Virginia to be a social worker in the Army National Guard. So I'll be an officer, a first lieutenant. So I'm really excited to go from being a tech sergeant to being a first lieutenant.
Very nice.
Thank you. It's been a lifelong dream of mine.
Neat.
So.
Tech Sergeant Hendershot will soon become Lieutenant Hendershot.
Yes.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for what you're doing.
You're welcome.
Let's get back to the Martinsburg Initiative if we could, because as we said, we're starting to now make a little bit of progress here.
We are.
After for kind of a concept for a while. Tell me, now that this grant has been secured, what's it enabling you to do to start to actually put a little bit of motion into place here?
A variety of things. We try to think of a three-tiered model, which is the same way schools think about math or reading or social studies. In other words, Tier 1 really tries to take care of all the kids, so that would be your classroom model. Then Tier 2, if someone isn't learning to read really well, they'll break them down into a smaller group. That's Tier 2. And then if a student needs extra individualized attention, that's Tier 3. So we do the same thing with kids behaviorally and in terms of prevention. One of the main goals of the Martinsburg Initiative is to reduce the impact of the heroin epidemic on children. So we do a lot of prevention services, and that's school-wide. So in that capacity, we might be going in and doing some education for a whole classroom. We might be working with a teacher. We might be working with how to implement trauma-informed systems for a whole school. So that's sort of tier 1. But then we also work with groups of kids. And then tier 3 is our ultimate goal, to provide those kids with really individualized care, kids who have been impacted directly by the heroin epidemic.
Is there a grade level or an age group that you're targeting in the initiative?
Yes, so the Martinsburg Initiative focuses on downtown schools, so kids who live in the 25401 zip code. And it would be the...
And why is that? Why is that the target? Is that
because
where you're going to find most of the problems in that zip code?
Well, Martinsburg City Police, because of Chief Richards, was the developer of the program.
Right.
And so we wanted to focus on the students who live within the Martinsburg City Police District.
Okay, makes sense.
And so we focus on pre-K through 5th grade. So it would be elementary schools and intermediate schools. So it's a total of 8 schools, but they're all downtown.
And the eventual outcome, the desired outcome, is to give these kids, each of these students, a greater chance at coming out of that age group without having any kind of
That's right.
Exposure to heroin or any problems
That's
along
right.
those lines.
And if we can increase a child's social and emotional skills, we can also increase their capacity to learn those other harder skills, math, science, reading, etc. So one of the things that we know helps children is to be connected to a positive adult role model. So we're working with We Can, the mentoring program of the Children's Home Society, getting kids recruited, getting mentors recruited, hooking children up with a positive adult role model who spends 2 to 4 hours a week with them outside of school.
So how does this program then, and at least in that aspect of it, how does it compare with, let's say, a program, Jump, for example, where they're teaming up an adult mentor with a student?
It's a very similar idea. It's a similar concept. We already had a relationship with Children's Home Society, so we ended up working with Children's Home Society and writing that organization into the grant. But that JUMP program is an excellent program, too. Same concept. If you can get that kid who's under stress, environmental stress at school, at home, and get them connected with a positive adult role model, that adult role model spends 2 to 4 hours a week with them, the likelihood of them overcoming all those risk factors in their life goes up enormously.
So walk me through this then, because this is a very interesting concept and one that we all hope really works. How do you go about identifying the child who's in a stressful home situation? Question 1. Question 2 then, how do you get the parents who are the creators of that stressful situation at home to buy into this program being allowed to help their child?
So I can answer question 1. So what we're using for the Martinsburg Initiative is called the ACE study. So it's the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, and it was done by the CDC back in 1997. What it does is it's a 10-question questionnaire that you can ask anybody, and it's negative life experiences. So like some of the examples would be emotional abuse, physical abuse, is there drugs in the home, has a parent been arrested? As the number of the experiences increases for a child, then their negative health, social, behavioral outcomes also increases. So as a school social worker, what I saw was that the kids who were bad, quote unquote, and getting in trouble all the time were kids who were from bad homes, right? And so it doesn't really take a researcher to figure that out, that as a child is stressed out and going through a lot of things at their home life, then at school they can't sit still and behave because they have all this stress on them. And so whenever we went to the schools and we said, hey, we want to intervene with the kids who are going to have the most risk factors, whenever I introduced this to the principals of the downtown schools and I gave them a copy of the 10 questions and I said, think about the kid that you see in your office the most and how many of these things do you think have had to happen to the kids that you see the most? And there wasn't a single one that was less than 7. So these kids' ages are like, 5 years old to 12 years old, and they already had an ACE score of a 7, which already meant that they were 46 times more likely to become a heroin user. So we use that research to say, okay, if we know that these kids have had 7 things that are traumatic happen to them, then we can focus on those kids and put interventions in for those kids, because the kids who show up to Boy Scouts or, to dance recitals or dance classes, those kids are getting all those resiliencies built into them, But how do we get the kids who need those things the most to the Boy Scouts? So what we're doing with the Martinsburg Initiative is connecting the kids who have the more risk factors to things that are going to build up their protective factors. So, for example, getting them to the Boys and Girls Club has been huge because the Boys and Girls Club previously only had one school that was in their district. So the Martinsburg Initiative recognized that, found money to pay for a bus that could go to all the schools in town and get all the kids that wanted to sign up to the Boys and Girls Club after school.
But that just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense.
It does.
It does make
Right.
sense. It's just finding the gaps and then filling those gaps.
And then as a result of this process, the teachers know, they're sitting. You've got 22 kids sitting in a third grade class, and you know which ones are scoring high on that test. I mean, you have now identified the child who's potentially, at least, in a stressful situation at home.
That particular test is designed for someone who's 18 years of old or older, but we still know that those risk factors are present. And one of the things we know is that these aren't bad kids. These are kids that bad things have happened to.
Sure.
And it probably also means that their families aren't bad families. They're families that bad things have happened to, right? So those kids who've had those adverse childhood experiences tend to have more problems with academics. They tend to have more problems with behavior. They tend to have more problems with attendance because the family is experiencing hardship as well. So we can actually just look for those kids who are being referred to the office a lot for behavioral things. They have attendance issues. They're struggling academically. And the people in the schools know who those children are.
And so what's the next step then? In order to have an impact, a positive impact on these children that you now have identified, walk us through what the next step might be.
Once again, the first thing we want to do is prevention. So we want to intervene at that tier 1 level.
Okay.
So we want to go into the classroom, work with the teacher, help the teacher understand the difference between a misbehaving kid and a stressed kid.
So you're working with the teacher in the classroom.
We're working with the teacher in the classroom. We're working with the principal. We're doing training, school-wide, trauma-sensitive teacher training, nurtured heart training, different approaches that we know work well with all kids, but especially those kids who have experienced trauma. So that's the first thing, because that's where the most return on investment is prevention. The second thing is early intervention, taking those children who are struggling and working with them in small groups, sometimes in conjunction with the school counselor, sometimes just getting them to Boys and Girls Club or getting them to another organization where they can work with groups of other children. And then the last thing, and the most difficult thing, and the thing that we're always willing to take on, that sometimes not everyone is that tier 3 kid, the kid who's really, really struggling, and they're miserable and they're making everyone else's life miserable. So we want to get personally involved with that kid. That kid, we might do a home visit and find out what's happening with the family. We might encourage that family to come to a nurtured heart training, which is also parenting as well as classroom behavior training. We might get them hooked up with a mentor, so there's another positive adult role model in their life. We might go to their psychiatrist's appointment with them and help the psychiatrist understand what things look like in the classroom for that child. So we'll do really whatever's necessary. We'll get them hooked up with whatever resources are available. We might get them hooked up with a psychotherapist from an organization like Eastridge or Shenandoah or one of those organizations in the community that are providing those services. We never want to replicate someone else's service. What we want to do is augment those services that already exist and get those kids hooked into the right level of service.
So of the 7 schools then that you're participating in, are you actually working in all 7 schools now?
In some capacity, some schools were working more in depth than other schools, and that's part of because the grant's $135,000 for 1 year, and so there's only so much. Myself and Garry, and then we have one other person, Noelle Spickler, that's working part-time. Our goal is to get this off the ground with the 1-year grant and then get more money so that we can have more people doing this work, and then we can even get it into middle school and high school. But it's just going to take more personnel to get it going.
So where are you now then? You talk about getting it off the ground. We can talk more about that after the break, but you're getting it off the ground. Would be interested to know where you are at this stage and what does the next year hold for you.
Sure.
Hang out with us, Tiffany Hendershot, Garry McDaniel from the Martinsburg Initiative are our guests here on Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. And this segment brought to you by Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies. When it comes to your home, auto, farm, or business, we're trusted, reliable, and experienced at Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies.
Just lifting slowly, I can see the way.
Life is complicated, but your finances shouldn't have to be. At BCT, we simplify your financial life. Bank of Charlestown is a locally owned community bank with 7 conveniently located offices serving the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia, Middleburg, Virginia, and their newest office in Hagerstown, Maryland. With over 140 years of experience, BCT is the tri-state area's choice for fast, convenient, and hassle-free banking solutions. Whether you are a high school senior looking for a student checking account, a college graduate purchasing a new car, a first-time home buyer, or investing for retirement, BCT has flexible solutions to fit your lifestyle. BCT is committed to providing everyday ways to simplify your financial life. Also, make sure you are following BCT on Twitter and Instagram at MyBCT or like their Facebook page to see how BCT reinvests local deposits back into the communities they serve. BCT, we simplify your financial life.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The WVU Medicine Spring Mills office building is now open. This new 3-story, 40,000 square foot facility is conveniently located off Interstate 81, Exit 20 at the intersection of US 11 and Campus Drive. The WVU Medicine Spring Mills medical office building features many different offices and services for area residents. It's now home to urgent care, women's imaging center, lab services, and primary care pediatrics. The WVU Medicine Spring Mills office building now open to serve you.
Will Greer to David Sills is a winning combination WVU fans know well.
Greer throwing toward the end zone. Ball caught. Post pattern. Sills. Touchdown. David Sills holds it in.
The Mountaineers, Talk Radio WRNR, and your business is a dynamic combination like no other. Contact our station to add your company to the coverage of the great tradition of West Virginia Mountaineer football and basketball. Heard right here on Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports radio station.
Simply Free e-checking from City National Bank. Perfect if you want basic checking with no monthly service fees or balance requirements. Stop by any of our 7 Eastern Panhandle locations or visit us online at bankatcity.com. City National Bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It was a teenage wedding and the old folks wished them well.
This segment of the program brought to you by... You can keep dancing, Tiffany. It's all right.
Yeah.
I feel like dancing myself. Like Chuck Berry.
She's pretty fun for an Army officer, isn't she?
It's a lieutenant, you
Don't
gotta be
tell
careful.
them.
Don't tell them.
She's got to get those maggots into shape.
This is all recorded, and you're on television too. Someone may have seen it.
You didn't know?
I did not know.
Yeah,
Does my hair look good?
we're on cable channel 10, baby.
I thought I was dressing for radio. I don't know.
At least you took your hat off, so you're good.
It's a good hat, though. I
love that
Maybe
hat.
I'll put it back on. I got it in New Orleans.
Oh, that's great.
Were you just down there for the festival in the
I
spring?
was down there for my son's 21st birthday. He wanted to go to New Orleans.
It was like last month?
It was back in November.
Their big spring festival, they have a good friend of mine from college has his band. They played down there for 10 days.
This segment of the show brought to you by Miller Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Route 9 east of Martinsburg, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. Before we get done at the top of the hour, I want to talk about the Handle with Care. What do you call the program? Okay, but I know Dave had asked a question leading into the break about
just where we are right now, because you had, I know that Chief Richards has put in so much time to developing this, and he has gone around the country and talked about this, and really I think brought a lot of attention to Martinsburg because of this unique idea.
Absolutely.
And now there's actually a program with funding. When did it start? Where are you now? And what are the outcomes at the end of year one when this grant ends that you anticipate?
Well, let me first of all say that Chief Richards was also our first mentor, by the way, and continues to mentor a student.
Very nice.
Yeah, he really leads from the front, and we're fortunate to be working with Chief Richards. He's a great guy. But just in terms of where we are now, it's, any new program, and this is not the first new program I've been a part of, but any new program, at first, it's just about trying to get some traction, right? So you've got some money, you've got some people, but it's a new idea. So you have to disseminate that idea. You have to get people on board with that idea. And I feel like right now we've gotten a lot of people on board. We've got teachers asking us to come into their classroom, inviting us to come observe and help them and give them some ideas. And we have families inviting us to come. And there's just a lot greater acceptance, just even in the few months that I've been here, that I've seen that growing sort of recognition and acceptance. And whenever we go to a new organization, they're always, we hear about the good work you're doing, and we're excited to have you on board, and we really appreciate you being here. So once you get your name out there and people start to recognize that you're here to help, you're not here to take anyone else's job or supplant anyone, you're here to support what the community is already doing, then people get on board, and I feel like that's where we are. I want to segue that into Handle with Care, and then I'm sure Tiffany can comment on some of that, where we want to be at the end of the year. But Handle with Care is the same kind of program. When Handle with Care first started, it was hard at first to get people on board. But right now, the Martinsburg City Police are so fired up about Handle with Care, because I was at a meeting the other day with George, the chief deputy, and he was talking about how much sense it made when he first heard about that program to let schools know that the police were in a home where there were children the night before. They served a warrant. They responded to a complaint. Whatever they had to do. If there's a child in that home, he's very, very passionate about making sure all their officers put in that Handle with Care, which they have automated now. It's really, they've taken it to the next level. That Handle with Care goes directly out to the school. Then that school's principal and that school's counselor, whoever the designated contact people are, know that this child, and this child last night had the police come to their home and serve a warrant. That child may not have gotten a lot of sleep. They probably didn't get their homework done. Things were probably in disarray. They had a traumatic experience, and we can treat them a little bit differently that day. We can be a little more understanding. Maybe they're going to need us to fix them some breakfast even though they came late. Maybe they're going to need to take a little nap. Maybe that's not a good day for them to take their test. Maybe we should hold off and let them take the makeup test next week. So the only thing the school knows are those 3 words, Handle with Care. But that's enough for us to then handle them with care, and for us to start building in that trauma-informed response. We know this is a kid who just experienced trauma. Now, when we first start this, you got to get one law enforcement body on board. We've got Martinsburg City Police very much on board with Handle with Care. Now we're working on getting the Sheriff's Department on board, and working on getting the state police on board, and eventually all the law enforcement from the Berkeley County area will be on board with that Handle with Care program. Handle with Care is in all 55 counties now, to some extent. Some counties have fully embraced it. Some counties are just ramping up. Handle with Care, we've got one agency fully on board, and eventually all of them will be.
What's the reception been from the Sheriff's Department on this? Are they ready to move on this, or do we need to push them along a little bit here, Tiff?
Well, what I've heard from the county schools is that they're not receiving Handle with Care notices. They really wish they were. So if anybody's listening, or if the sheriff's listening and he'd like to talk to me and Garry, we would love to have a conversation about what is involved and how much it helps the kids and helps the schools to know what's going on in the homes whenever they come to school the next day. A lot of times whenever we check on kids that have had a Handle with Care, they're like, oh, wait, somebody knows that something's up. You know, I'm not going to get sent to the principal's office 6 times today because of my behavior, because they're going to be preventative in the morning and figure out what's going on and give me that time I need, maybe just some space alone. So it is something that if we could get everybody on board, we would see drastic improvements across the county.
All right, so we need to get on Sheriff Keller's case about this, Dave.
Well, he does listen to us, I think. We're very influential. Not. Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll
Well,
see.
it really does take everyone in the community, everyone in the
Mhm.
community showing an interest. So we all have a certain sphere of influence, and obviously, you all have a platform here. So we appreciate your amplifying our message because you all do have an impact.
Yeah, the one question that I asked, I'm not sure I got a clear answer on, and it might be the biggest hurdle of all, but that is, where do you get the parents of a stressed child to buy into it, and how difficult do you think that will be as you move forward?
And you need to answer it in 1 minute or less, by the way.
That's one of the most challenging things we face is getting parents on board. Parents are busy. Parents are working. We have lots of single parents. We have parents who are working multiple jobs. We have lots of...
We have a lot of parents who don't want to admit that their child is in a stressful situation.
Sure, and
too.
we've got grandparents who are raising kids too. And so there are all kinds of different obstacles for
Sure.
families. And so we really do have to work on continually finding better ways to get families on board. One of the things that works well is to go visit them in their home. We've done quite a few home visits, and when you meet people in their own turf, that helps. We had a big at one of the
Community schools event.
we had a big community schools event at Winchester Avenue School, and there were hundreds of families who came. And there was a bouncy house, and there was face painting, and there were balloon animals, but there was also a lot of information from a lot of community agencies. We have to do more of those informal events that bring families in.
Garry and Tiffany, thank you so much for your time this
Thank
morning.
you.
Great stuff. Good
Thanks.
job. Well done.
Thank you, guys.
Best of luck
Really
to both
appreciate
of
it.
you. Thank you.
From the Martinsburg Initiative, Tiffany Hendershot, Garry McDaniel.
Get your kicks on Route 66.
You think back to when your daughter was the tiniest, sweetest, softest, prettiest, most precious little person in your life. She cried and your heart raced. She smiled and you laughed. She said, "Mama," and you cried. Hi, this is Lori from Bechtel Jewelers. I know she spent a lot of time in your arms, by your side, in your lap. The years have flown, and she outgrew your lap, but she never outgrew your heart. Your girl is graduating now, and a gift she will wear and treasure forever is a heart pendant. Each time she looks at it, she'll know she's always in your heart. Wherever she goes, you'll be together. At Bechtel Jewelers, Route 11 South in Inwood, our heart pendants start at just $99 in sterling silver. You'll find them in gold too. Some have gems, some are sprinkled with diamonds that twinkle like she does. You'll find one that fits her, sort of like the way she used to fit in your lap. At Bechtel Jewelers, Route 11 South in Inwood.
Tiffany Hendershot, Garry McDaniel, if someone wants to contact you about becoming a mentor with the Martinsburg Initiative, how do they do that?
Just call Berkeley County Schools. The number is 304-267-3700, or you can go on the Martinsburg Police Department's website and look at the Martinsburg Initiative, and Berkeley County Schools also has a website for the Martinsburg Initiative.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again next year. Hopefully we'll get enough progress, enough traction under our wheels for somebody to decide to keep the project alive. And
Don't wait till next year. Come back sooner.
You're welcome anytime.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Thank
the
you,
Glenn
guys.
Beck Show is next. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. Talk to you again in 22 short hours.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by